Hi, my name is Marc and I'm sitting here across from Myke Atkinson.
Yo.
Myke and I both love games.
Board games.
Card games.
Word games.
You name it. So we decided to play a game on the radio. Once a week, Myke has given me 3 minutes of airtime on his show Big Friday to tell you a story. At the end of the story, you will have to decide whether it's a story of fact or a story of fiction.
Sounds good.
3 minutes, fact or fiction. Ready?
Begin. 3 minutes. Go.
This week, I wanted to tell you a story you've likely never heard before about a lovely type of music called Norwegian black metal.
Norwegian black metal is a once obscure genre of heavy metal that went from Oslo's underground music scene to capturing headlines in the early to mid-90s due to a series of church burnings, suicides, and murders.
However, the story I'm going to tell you today is even more esoteric than that. Because even if you have heard of Norwegian black metal, there's a good chance you've never heard of the offshoot of the genre that popped up in, of all places, northern Manitoba. But first, a little bit of history. You see, right at the end of the 19th century into the early 20th century, large numbers of people fled Iceland and settled on the northern shores of Lake Winnipeg, finding the seemingly inhospitable shore strikingly similar to their homes that they had just left behind. These settlements came to be commonly known as New Iceland. Now here's where this factors into our story today. You see, a century later, youth on the northern shores of Lake Winnipeg began identifying with their Nordic ancestors, particularly in their newfound love of black metal. Remember, this was the 1990s, pre-internet, or at least pre-internet in most of rural Canada. At some point in the mid-1990s, tapes began slowly making their way over the ocean. And with these tapes came the stories of the church burnings, which apparently struck a nerve. And of course, the stories are often secondhand and extremely difficult to verify at the time. The tales took on a life of their own. The whole scene reached a very public climax, much like in the case of the Norwegian counterpart, when in October of 1997, 4 teenagers in the town of, get this, Bloodvein, were accused of burning down the town's Catholic church. Bloodvein, very appropriately metal, right? Well, it's actually an Ojibwe word. Anyway, post the burning down of this town's Catholic church, the timeline basically stops. I haven't been able to find any information on the now infamous Lake Winnipeg black metal scene following that. So, is the story of the Lake Winnipeg black metal scene and the burning of the church in Bloodvein a story of fact or a story of fiction?
Well, what do you think? I find this one, I find it too hard to believe. More just the fact that I have never heard of a Canadian counterpart to the black metal scene, and I just feel like that's something that would have crossed my plate at some point in life. I mean, everyone's heard those tales of the church burnings, like it's just part of the public conscience. But I don't know. It seems a little too far-fetched, I think, for me. Canadians are, I don't know. It's amazing. Either way, good story, but I'm going with false.
So you think it's false, huh? Well, although there was both a violent and destructive Norwegian black metal scene, and the story of the New Iceland is somewhat true, those were both decoys, because the story of the Lake Winnipeg black metal scene and the church burning is false. And I made it up.
Stop.